I'd like to call the Flint Board of Education Special Board Meeting to order. It is 5:32. Board members, as I call your name, please reply present for the public record. Vice President Wright.
Present.
Secretary Ramsdell.
Present.
Treasurer Green.
Present.
Trustee McIntosh.
Present.
Trustee Perry.
Present.
Trustee Strozier. Absent, and I am present. At this time, the board will hear any comments from the public. Members of the public are reminded that the Board of Education, by its bylaw 1370, is not under obligation to answer questions, make statements, or commitments in response to issues raised by the public. In general, such issues will be referred to the superintendent for investigation, study, or recommendation. Any public members wishing to address the board must raise their hand in the chat section to alert Stephen that you want to speak. Stephen will state your name prior to unmuting your microphone. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Please remember to restate your name and state your address for the public record before you begin speaking. Stephen, are there any comments from the public?
Good evening. There are no comments at this time.
Thank you, Stephen. The public is reminded that you may also send an email to FBOE@flintschools.org to have your comments read at the next meeting. At this time, I seek a motion and a second to go into closed session to meet with the board attorney.
So moved. Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. When I call upon your name, please say yes or no to go into closed session. Vice President Wright?
Jennifer? Yeah. I'm going to need you.
Secretary Ramsdell?
Yes.
Treasurer Green?
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh?
Yes.
Trustee Perry?
Yes.
Trustee Strozier is absent, and it's a yes for myself. The motion passes 6-0. All right, so everybody must close out of this and go into their Zoom meeting, and we will return here after we come out of closed session. I would like to call the Flint Board of Education Committee of the Whole meeting to order at 6:34. Board members, as I call your name, please reply present for the public record. Vice President Wright?
Present.
Secretary Ramsdell?
Present.
Treasurer Green?
Present.
Trustee McIntosh?
Present.
Trustee Perry?
Present.
Trustee Strozier?
Oh, you probably can't answer.
I know, even when he was here, he wasn't here. And myself is present. So, all right, I want to do Resolution 21.16, waiver of bylaws by the Board of Education, School District, City of Flint. Before we proceed with our meeting, I'm seeking a motion and a second to amend the meeting agenda to enable the board to act on Resolution 21.17, authorization to execute proposed staffing service agreement.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we amend the meeting agenda. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, the motion to amend the meeting agenda to allow the board to act upon Resolution 21.17, authorization to execute proposed staffing services agreement, will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve. Vice President Wright?
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdell?
Yes.
Treasurer Green?
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh?
Yes.
Trustee Perry?
Yes.
And it's a yes for myself. Trustee Strozier, have you joined us? Motion passes 6-0. At this time, the board will hear any comments from the public. Members of the public are reminded that the Board of Education, by its bylaw 1370, are not obligated to answer questions, make statements, or commitments in response to issues raised by the public. In general, such issues will be referred to the superintendent for investigation, study, or recommendation. Any public members wishing to address the board must raise their hand in the chat section to alert Stephen that you want to speak. Stephen will state your name prior to unmuting your microphone. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Please remember to restate your name and state your address for the public record before you begin speaking. Stephen?
Good afternoon, everyone. I do have a couple that were submitted while you were away.
Okay.
All right. The first one comes from, let me put this up so we can. All right. First one comes from a Cynthia Nicholas. Good evening. I am concerned that the district is requiring teachers to teach online from school starting Monday when the COVID numbers are currently on the rise. Several teachers in the district have just recently come down with it, and one was hospitalized. The administration building had to be shut down for deep cleaning for a couple of days and staff quarantined. The board is still holding virtual meetings due to COVID and feeling unsafe meeting face-to-face, and it is still unsafe for students to return. Please reconsider allowing teachers to continue safely teaching from home. Thank you for your time, Cynthia Nicholas.
Thank you, Stephen.
Next from, the next from a Maureen Kilby. Have you worked with the union to develop plan for staff returning to the building? Does the plan include provisions for staff that have health conditions that put them at an increased risk for severe illness from COVID-19? I live in the community and I am concerned about an increase in the amount of people leaving their homes to go to a workplace in my community when their job can be done from home. Why are teachers going back in the buildings at this time?
Thank you, Stephen. Superintendent Stewart, would you like to address any of the concerns? Up to you.
Not at this time, Board President.
Okay. The public is reminded that you may also send an email to FBOE@flintschools.org to have your comments read at the next meeting. Thank you. Ms. Perry, I am going to have you do your presentation at the start of the actual meeting, if that's okay. And then at this point, if you would like to open the Human Resources Committee meeting. Ms. Perry, did I lose you?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I gotta, wait a minute. Okay, I gotta pull the,
Didn't work. We need better.
I forgot I had,
Actually, got something there. I can do.
I forgot I had the, that I was the first. Wait a minute, turn this TV down. Okay, why are you not coming up? I had you up earlier. Okay, there it is. All right. I'd like to call to order the Human Resources Committee of the Whole, and I would like to call upon Mrs. Washington to present action items to the board. First one is action item 1.10, personnel recommendation. Washington.
Good evening, Board.
Evening.
I seek your approval to move action item 1.10, personnel recommendations, to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All is, all. Seeing none, all in favor of the personnel recommendation going to the regular school board meeting, action item 1.10, I'll do it by roll call. President Lester?
You so moved. Yes.
Oh, wait. Had it been moved in second?
Yes.
I know, I messed up. Okay, Vice President,
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes.
Treasurer Green, Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Strozier, and Trustee myself, yes. So the vote is passed 6-0.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Right ahead.
I seek your approval to move action item 1.11, authorization for payment of invoices for services rendered, to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none? Yes, ma'am, Mrs. Wright.
Yes.
Yes, I said they can hear you.
No, I thought you were getting ready to ask a question.
No, I was talking to Arthur. I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, so it's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote will be right by roll call. President Lester,
Yes.
Vice President Wright,
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes.
Treasurer Green,
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Strozier, and Trustee Perry, yes. Motion passes 6-0. Mrs.
Thank you.
Washington.
I seek your approval to move action item 1.12, authorization to execute service agreement to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? I guess I have one question, and it's because I've forgotten. What's the service agreement?
This is for frontline AppleTrack and absence management.
Right, got it. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we're going to have a roll call vote for action item 1.12. President Lester,
Yes.
Vice President Wright,
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes.
Treasurer Green,
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Strozier, absent, and Trustee Perry, myself, yes. Okay, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Washington. Seeing no further action, I declare the Human
Thank you.
Resources Committee of the whole meeting adjourned. I now turn the floor over to Vice President Wright for the Governance Committee of the whole meeting.
I would like to call the Governance Committee of the whole meeting to order. Mrs. Stewart will present action items for the board.
Oh, my screen just went blank. Oh, hold on one second, Mrs. Wright. Oh,
I can go ahead and read them.
would you please?
Okay.
I
Okay.
just have a black screen. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Action item 5.4, the second reading of the reading and adoption of the revised purchasing policies 3610, which is a combination of the Flint Community Schools version and the 3610 Flint version and the 6320 Neola version. I seek your approval for action item 5.4, second reading and adoption of the revised purchasing policies.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion? Okay. I don't see any pictures or faces or anything, so I don't know if anyone has a question, so you'll have to speak out if you do. Seeing no further discussion, the motion to approve action item 5.4, second reading and adoption of the revised purchasing policies 3610 Flint Community Schools, 6320 Neola will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. President Lester.
Ms. White, I'm sorry. Sorry to cut you off, but can I ask a quick question? I couldn't say. I think you guys didn't hear me.
Sure, go ahead.
My question is, we're voting to decide which policy, or to move it forward to decide which policy we're going to adapt. Is that what we're doing?
No, when you develop policies, there's a process where you go through several readings, which,
Right. No.
but that process, I guess you're just kind of really thoroughly revisiting them to make sure that they're saying what you want to say. So what we're doing with this policy, this is the second reading, and
Right.
it is a combination of the verbiage from the Neola policy and the Flint Community School policy that has been sort of developed with the help of the finance office. So we're doing the second reading of that.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear and that the community is clear. Okay, thank you.
I can't hear you, Danielle, very well.
Yep, okay, that's okay. Yep, you cleared my question.
Okay, all right. So the vote is on whether or not we want to approve this second reading of the policy. President Lester,
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes.
Treasurer Green,
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
Trustee Strozier, and Vice President Wright. The motion passes 6-0.
Vice President Wright, you didn't say yes or no, you just said your name.
Oh, I see it. Okay. Vice President Wright, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out, Ms. Perry. In my head, I was saying it, so I guess it didn't come out loud.
Get her, Vera, get her.
Couldn't hear.
Okay. Now we're doing action item 5.5, the first reading of the revised policy 4515, Flint Community Schools acceptable use policy. Oh, actually,
So moved.
this is Mr. Jones on.
I am.
Oh,
Hello.
I'm sorry. This was yours. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I seek your approval to move action item 5.5, first reading of revised board policy 4515, Flint Community Schools acceptable use policy to the November 11th, 2020 Board Committee of the Whole meeting for a second reading and adoption.
So moved.
And
It has been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion?
Ms. Wright,
Yes.
completely not about this, but November 11th is Veterans Day. Are we planning to have a meeting on Veterans Day?
yeah, that's never been.
I didn't set the schedule, Board President.
I just want to make sure if something needs to be corrected, we can do that ahead of time.
Well, I'm sure we have time to revise. So if Mrs. Wood is on the call, maybe she can do a revision of the calendar.
I'm here. You would have to take a vote as to whether or not the group is in agreement of modifying your schedule to move the committee of the whole.
Okay, so can we do that in another section, Board President?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I didn't mean to cause a
Yeah.
commotion. I just wanted to make sure that,
Yeah, so
everything is
maybe
as it should be.
maybe we can do that under your section of the meeting.
Sure.
Okay. All right. It was moved in second, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no further discussion, the motion to move action item 5.5, first reading of the revised board policy 4515, the Flint Community Schools acceptable use policy to the proposed November 11th, 2020 board meeting committee of the whole, board committee of the whole meeting for a second reading and adoption will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. President Lester,
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes.
Treasurer Green,
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
Trustee Strozier, And Vice President Wright, yes. The motion passes 6-0. 6 yes, 0 no. Okay, Mrs. Stewart, this is she still? Mr. Jones, do you have the policies that Mrs. Stewart would have been presenting?
I can read the script.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I seek your approval to move action item 5.6, first reading of new board policy, Title 9, sexual harassment policy, to the proposed November 11, 2020 board committee of the whole meeting for a second reading and adoption.
So moved.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the motion to move action item 5.6, first reading of the new board policy for the Title 9 sexual harassment policy to the proposed November 11, 2020 board committee of the whole meeting for a second reading and adoption will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. President Lester,
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes.
Treasurer Green. Did she speak?
Yes.
Treasurer Green?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
Trustee Strozier, and Vice President Wright, yes. The motion passes 6 yes, 0 no. Okay, Mrs. Stewart, I will turn it back over to you. And this is any comments regarding the district's safe return and reopening?
So it seems like she's not able to
Okay.
even talk to us at this time. So if there are slides, she's telling me she do not have slides. So I'm going to try to give you an update on what we have discussed this far for the safe return to learn. We have been meeting with our health community, along with our health official, Ms. Eileen Tomasi, as it states in our Safe Return to Learn plan, following their lead. And as it is today, they're saying that it is possible for our scholars to return to school. However, because we did not know what was going on with the governor, we brought a plan, plan A through D, that we brought to the governance meeting to discuss. We wanted to make sure that we were ready as a district to support our scholars coming back to school if we were told by MDE that we had no choice. And so there has been information given to our superintendent that states we do have a choice. And at the time, we have not chosen to send our scholars back to school. And so we're steadily working with our principals and our wellness teams to call our scholars, families, to find out who wants to remain online and who wants to be face-to-face when the time comes for scholars to return. And so this week, we are spending this week calling all of our scholars to determine if they do want to be face-to-face or online. By the end of this week, we will have all of our scholars covered, knowing what scholars want to return and what scholars are going to stay online, whether it's distance learning or whether it is virtual learning, because there is a difference. Distance learning is face-to-face, online, on the device with a teacher in front of them. And the virtual learning is that We have two-way communication going with the scholar and the teacher or the family, and they can do their work at any time, with the teacher uploading the Google Classroom with the work that the scholar needs to complete. And so at the end of this week, when we have all of our data, we are going to meet with principals next week to ensure that staffing is in order for the amount of scholars that are coming back when the time comes. That is to be determined when the time comes, and making sure that we have a teacher in place for each and every one of our scholars. We know that there's underlying issues for some of our teachers, and there's concern there. So we want to make sure that we have called all of our families and we know exactly what they want to do. And so that is the update we have at this time. We have not made a decision on bringing our scholars back, but we do have a plan just in case our governor decides that all the scholars must return, or we open up our buildings again.
Are there
I have
any
a question.
questions?
I
Ms.
have a
Perry?
question.
Are we taking into consideration, I think it was the CDC, saying that the next 6 to 12 weeks are going to be very critical? They're expecting a huge onset of the virus within the next 3 months, from now through the next 3 months. So are we keeping a weekly view of this, or how is this working?
So, Ms. Perry, we are, Anita is meeting with the health officials on a regular basis. Actually, today, Mr. Massey was meeting with principals on the subject of safety and understanding what's going on. She's meeting with the health community, Dr. Reyes, Dr. Reynolds. We meet with them regularly to find out what's going on, and they are saying that there's more cases now, but we're still relying on the health community to assist us with our decision making. And so far, we have not determined to bring our scholars back.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I really am. Thank you. I'm done.
All right, Ms. Green?
Because when we voted in July, they anticipated that the fall, winter months would be worse. So this is nothing new from the CDC. I just wanted to add that that's maybe both the way I voted. But my question is, the teachers who go back, will they be compensated extra compensation for going on the front line like that?
So I'm going to defer to Ms. Cassandra on that. Ms. Cassandra, can you speak to that, please?
I am so sorry. I lost connection, and I just reconnected. Would you mind repeating the question?
But teachers who are required to go back into the classroom, will they receive extra compensation for that?
Yes, we are working on that now, as it was stated in the governor's budget in regards to hazard pay. I have spoken with Ms. Stewart, as well as some other team members regarding to be able to identify the funding to be able to pay teachers and support staff hazard pay for those who are returning to the building. So actually, I will be meeting with union leaders this week and next week to talk about those terms of agreement for that payment.
Okay. Also, and I know I've asked this several times. Ms. Stewart knows this. I don't know if she can hear me, but the 26th, when staff are supposed to go back into the building, I don't know if it's for professional development or what. Is that date still standing that they will go back into the buildings on the 26th?
As of right now, yes, that is the communication that was previously sent out. Teachers and support staff return on the 26th.
Or so you going to be in the buildings too, or just staff? And what will they be doing if no students are there?
So,
Hello, I'm back. I'm sorry.
okay.
I see. Ms. Board Member Green, can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, I'm asking about the 26th date again, because
Okay.
students are not going to be in the building. I'm not saying they aren't, but my question is, if they aren't, what will staff be in the buildings? What's their assignments? What would that look like?
So a few things, Board Member Green. One, we have all of, well, we're currently working on now, and making sure that all of the PPE is in place in all of our buildings. And so staff will go back and have an opportunity, one, to have professional development. This is, some people call it our new norm. It's a new way of doing things. And so staff will have to have professional development. Our coordinator of health services is in the process of putting together some professional development on just things to look for within staff and students, professional development on how to, if and when our students do return, how to navigate our buildings with the appropriate PPE in place. Staff will have to, with their students, travel one way within the building. And so we want to make sure that our staff is comfortable with navigating the buildings with PPE in place prior to us bringing our students back. The other thing is the materials and resources that staff use, they're in the building. And so if while they're teaching and instructing classrooms, their materials and resources will be within arm's length so that they can get what it is that they need when they need, so that they can continue on with instructing students at the level that we would want them to instruct students. There are also, I'm sorry.
Somebody's TV is on in the background.
Sounds like somebody's yelling.
Yeah, I think it's a TV. It sounds like a fight, though, don't it?
It does.
Let's hope it's somebody's TV.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Sorry, go ahead, Ms. Stewart.
So those are some of the things that we are setting up and working with our staff on now. We're also continuing to, and I didn't get a chance to hear what all Mr. Jones said in regards to the return to learn plan, but we're continuing to work with the medical and the public health community on metrics and milestones of when we will be able to bring our kids back, so that we can have that conversation as a board. And so we just want to make sure that everything is in place as far as PPE is concerned, that teachers have had an opportunity to do some things within their classrooms, to as far as some of their personal items, as far as materials, because there are some things that are in the classrooms that just will not be able to be in the classrooms when we bring our kids back. Desks will have to be spaced out 6 feet apart. And so we want to make sure that everything is set and ready to go in the classrooms, so that when we do as a team say it's time to bring our kids back, all of those things are in place and our staff have been properly trained and they know how to navigate the buildings safely.
Okay, would this require another vote once we get all the data and everything we're looking for to make that decision? Would this require another vote, or it's just something that we're going to do?
A vote for kids?
For kids to return.
Oh, yes, ma'am, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Okay. That will be brought to the board, and the board will vote on when we do bring staff back. So what is going to happen moving forward, Board Member Green, is a part of Act 149, which was House Bill 5911 through 5913, which was the one that was recently signed by the governor. We have to provide the board members updates every month. And so moving forward, the board members will get updates every month. And then hopefully at a board meeting or during one of our, or we'll have an opportunity to have a board workshop where I would like to invite the public and medical people in that we have been working with and who are in the process of helping us to develop metrics and milestones that will say, yes, now it's safe for us to begin to roll the kids on. No, this is starting to happen, so we need to dial back, or this is happening, so we need to return to remote instruction, for them to be able to come and speak to the board members so that they can themselves provide data and information around how we develop those metrics and milestones for when we do say, yes, let's bring our kids back on. And so, yes, ma'am, to answer your question, yes, that will be coming before the board for the board to vote on when we bring our kids back.
Okay, so it's not going to be a vote for the 26th. That's just something that's already happening on the 26th.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Staff that's coming back on the 26th, that's not going to be a vote. That's just something that's already going to happen.
So for the return of staff, no, ma'am, that was not an action for voting.
Yeah, I think Anita, you said staff at one point when you missed.
One more question.
Yes.
Is it a reason why it wasn't a vote? Did I miss something?
That it wasn't a vote for staff?
Yeah.
That it wasn't a vote for staff?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think mine connection. Yeah, why it wasn't a vote for them to return on the 26th? Why is she? Because I don't, unless I missed something.
So trying to, a couple things. Trying to stay within operation and governance, and I didn't think that staff fell under governance. I thought staff was more so operational, and operational falls under the superintendent's decision.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. Okay. That's what I needed to know. Okay, thank you so much. Because a lot of people, I know that, and people have been asking me that. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No, you're welcome.
That's it for me, Mrs. Wright.
Okay, any other questions from board members?
Yeah, Ms. Ray, this is Casey. Superintendent Stewart, you and I have had this conversation before, but just to kind of, at this point, it's your opinion, or based on conversations we've had, that students will not be returning to the classroom this year, correct?
I don't know if I would say, so when you say this year, do you mean this school year or do you mean the 2020 year?
I mean 2020.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to be clear. So I don't think that the students will be returning to school the 2020 school year. When you look at the numbers that and how the numbers are increasing, and when you look at, so I learned something a couple weeks ago about transmission rate. And so when you look at, I'm trying to pull the data up so that I can share it with you. It's in part of my communique. So from the 16th to now, we've had 49 new positive cases. And with the positivity rate, which is what the medical community seems to be leaning on pretty heavily, the positivity rate on October 1st was 4.3%. On September 20th, it was 2.1%. The current positivity rate today is 6.5%.
Oh.
So on September 20th, it was 2.1. On October 1st, it was 4.3. And today it is 6.5.
Is that our positivity rate within the school district?
No. That's the positivity rate within the city of Flint.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so when you look at since the 16th, we have had 49 new positive cases within the city of Flint. And since September 20th, the positivity rate has been going in the wrong direction. It's been going up.
Yes.
Okay, and so now the positivity rate is currently 6.5. And medical teams, some sources recommend that the percentage for the positivity rate be less than 5
Mm-hmm.
for the students to return to school, that it's less than 5 for the students to return to school. So if the positivity rate continues like it is for the remainder of the year, then no, our students will not be back in school. If something happens, as I've been praying that it will, and it starts to go back down to less than 5, then we possibly could be entertaining a conversation of our students returning to school. But the positivity rate needs to go back the other way and be less than 5%. And right now, it's currently above 5.
I don't know.
Thank you. That's
Can I say something?
Yes,
I'm not
ma'am.
trying to cut any. Okay, so with that being said, I know we're speaking a lot about students, but we have to be concerned with staff also.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think we have enough conversation, because if it's going up for everybody.
Mhm.
So that puts staff at risk and in danger also. And I understand that staff is considered operational, but under the circumstances, I think more consideration. I don't want staff back in the buildings either. And it's for several reasons. I just don't think it's safe for staff or students,
Mhm.
especially with the uptick that's been anticipated since July. This is nothing new. This information has been out there. So when we had that last meeting, and the medical community was suggesting it wasn't being people weren't being affected by, I guess, contamination, whatever that conversation was, that didn't make any sense to me, as I said then. I just don't think it's safe for staff or students to be put at risk. I don't think it's fair.
Mhm.
And I think at minimum, we need to take a vote on staff too. I just don't think we should do them like that. We've enough members infected. We have enough die. We have enough hospitalized for us to know. And that's it for me.
So, Board Member Green, I totally understand and hear everything that you have stated. I do. With students, you're adding more people in the building. With staff, they can easily go to their classrooms. And most of our classrooms have doors. They can easily go to their classrooms. They can close their doors and they can teach within their classroom. They don't need to be, as long as they're not congregating, they're not hanging out in the staff lounge, and they're following the rules that we have laid out as far as our protocols. Our staff, we can't say that there's going to be zero risk. We can't say that. But as long as they follow the guidelines and they keep their mask on, it'll be a safer environment. The other thing that, I didn't want to say, trying not to say, we also have staff that's abusing their work time. We've had staff members who, when they were supposed to be at work, were at the gym. We've had staff members when they were supposed to be at work at the grocery store, grocery shopping with a full cart of groceries. And so, I mean, there's two ends of the coins here, and we've had conversations with some of the bargaining units about this, but unfortunately, you have adults who are being paid and not doing what it is that they're supposed to be doing.
Wow, that's unfortunate.
I'd like to say something, if that's all right.
And then I'd like to jump in when she's done, if that's okay.
Enough school districts have teachers back in the classroom, and a lot of the reasons is just for the one Stuart has said. Fenton, Lake Fenton, Atherton, A number of them have. As a matter of fact, I think, I don't know if it's Fenton or Lake Fenton, they had daycare for the for the teachers who had kids at home. And my next door neighbor has been back at Atherton since, well, let me see, I think it's 2 weeks now. But they're in, you know, when we go to the grocery store, we all go out. I think having teachers in the classroom with the work right there, and yes, it's a challenge if you have kids at home and this and that. There's no absolute right. There's no angel that's going to come down and tell all of us this is what you do. There's just no crystal ball. So I think you have to do what is there. And if the teachers are coming in and they're in their classrooms, I don't see anything wrong with that. Kids is a whole different matter. And I think that Ms. Stewart is right. I don't believe that. I think February's, and I've said this all along, would be as soon as we might come back. But even then, I'm not sure. And nobody is, you know.
And that's my point, Ms. Rand. Nobody's sure. So the consequence for not being sure are too stiff, in my opinion.
Well,
That's just
I'd say for the kids, that's right. But Ms. Green, I have to disagree with you when it says about teachers being in their classrooms.
I
That's not,
understand, but just to piggyback off of what you said, the uncertainty is scary.
yes,
So
it is.
that's my point. We are unsure. So that's just my point.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Lester, and then
Ms.
I'll have
McIntosh
you-
waiting.
McIntosh, well, Ms. McIntosh, and then me. All right. Ms. Green, Lester.
I'm done.
So, Ms. Stewart, and I'll say, I don't know how to say this without sounding, I cautious us to never get into the mindset that we're managing our employees based on the amount of time versus the amount of work that's getting done. We have staff members who are working from home in some very crazy times right now that maybe the only opportunity they get to go to the grocery store is during the hours of work because they have a husband or a wife who's working and they're doing the kids' schoolwork at night. Maybe that trip to the gym is what's helping keep them mentally stable because of whatever else is going on in their life. So I would caution that we need to never be a district that manages their employees based on the amount of hours they put in a week versus the quality of the work that they're performing in whatever amount of time it takes them to do that. I've worked many jobs that said it's a 60-hour week position and I could get the job done in 45 or 50. I hope that we're not turning into misers of individuals versus misers of a school district, because that's a very dangerous place to head down, as well as I think we're treating the 90% like the 10 versus the 10 like the 90. So we probably have a very small amount of people that would be abusing the work from home, if I would even call it an abuse of the work from home. And we need to make sure that we're not damaging our reputation to our staff based on some other people who aren't doing what we should. So that's my opinion on that. I defer to your ability, but I would say I just be very cautious of the intention and falling into that mindset of people are abusing it, and so we need to take it away, because I feel like we as society fall into that sometimes, and it just becomes a very dark place to be. That's all I had to say about that. I'll go to Ms. McIntosh now, or Ms. Wright.
Thank you, Casey. Well said.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
I gotta agree with Casey and Danielle. I think if you have somebody that is abusing something, then we should address those individuals instead of putting other people's health and safety on the line. You have people that have voiced their concerns about their safety. Still, the year is almost over. We're 10 months into the year and we don't have a vaccine. We don't have a for sure treatment. We don't have a for sure cure. And I would hate for somebody who was dedicated, doing what they were supposed to do, to get forced back to the classroom, end up sick, and lose their life because somebody was grocery shopping on the clock. I don't know the solution to this, but what I do know is if somebody has the opportunity to work from home in the middle of a pandemic, I think we should afford them that. And as far as the money go that we're paying them, no, we don't want to be taken advantage of. But you guys know I always say, everybody who come through here, they want an extra dollar, get us for it, okay? So for us to dog walk our teachers like that, but we let everybody else wipe their muddy shoes on our backs, it's just it's upsetting for me because I guess that's about it. I just don't think that our teachers should have to be. And then I'm thinking about the training classes. How long does those training classes take? How will the teachers be set up to take those training classes? How many teachers have to take that training class? Where can this training be done from? Does it have to be face to face? I have a lot of questions that goes with that, because even though somebody may be abusing a privilege, lives is on the line. People's life is on the line. We in the midst of an uptick. It is getting worse. It is not getting better. And I know education is important and all that, but just the type of performances we've been putting out to put somebody's life in danger, it just don't add up to me. But that's just my opinion. I'm done. I yield.
So I don't want anybody to think that I'm punishing teachers because for what a few may have done. It's not a punishment for what a few may have done. It was simply everything that I stated at first. If staff can social distance, when you bring students in, then you're adding more people to the pot, which makes it extremely harder to social distance. The staff can social distance. They can go to their classrooms where all of their resources and their materials are, so that they can teach their children from their classrooms. We're already at a disadvantage because we're not in face-to-face instruction, which is the best form of instruction, is face-to-face instruction. So now we're doing virtual instruction, and we're doing virtual instruction with a district that already has challenges academically outside of a pandemic. And so we want our teachers to be able to have the resources that they need so that we can be able to sustain some level of rigor with classroom instruction versus being at home, not having an opportunity to have the resources and the materials that they may need to be able to maintain that level of rigor for instruction. So,
May I add, Miss Anita? Or
Sure.
can I not speak? I don't know.
No, go ahead, sure.
Well, I'm next. You can come after me.
Yes, ma'am.
Unless you just want to piggyback on what she's saying. Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
It's just that in this conversation, there's a huge piece that has not been added to this conversation. Before scholars can even return, we have to make sure our infrastructure of internet and devices can work from the building. And if we don't have everyone on at the same time, working with scholars face to face on the screens, then it'll be chaos when we return. So the only way to really know if all of our schools are on at the same time, all of our teachers are in their rooms working, all of our support staff and wellness team and office staff are all online, then we know how to fix this before scholars actually return to face-to-face learning and online learning. So there's technical pieces there as well that we will have to look at before scholars return. I just wanted to lift that because that's a huge piece of scholars even returning back to the school face-to-face. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. You know, and my comment sort of was in line with what Mr. Jones is saying, that, you know, the process of there's a process to even going back to school, which starts just like any other situation with teachers returning to work first. So we can't even possibly look at having kids come back if the teachers have not returned. And as Mr. Jones stated, began to work things out to see where the weaknesses in the PPE chain might be. So, and the other part of it is teachers basically staying at home to work is not the norm. Most districts have had their teachers go to their buildings to teach since last spring when this started.
Yep.
My son is a teacher in Memphis, Tennessee, and he has never not been in his classroom since this started. As a matter of fact, my granddaughter sits in the back of his classroom to do her virtual schooling while he's teaching in the front of his classroom to his students. So it's not the norm to have teachers stay at home. And I think if you check the surrounding districts, most of those teachers are going into those buildings to teach. And as Mrs. Stewart said, the materials they need are in the building. You know, not many teachers. Now, I've seen a couple. As a matter of fact, I got an email from one who has basically set up her house like a classroom, but that's not the norm either. People are sort of hitting and missing with this. So, but if you're in your classroom, you have your manipulatives that you can do your examples with. You have your smart board that you can do movies or anything that kids may need to see. Those things are not available at home. And as Mrs. Stewart said, we're kind of behind the 8 ball anyway. And so here again, I'm not advocating that people's lives are put in jeopardy. However, this is the one opportunity that social distancing is something that they absolutely can do, because you're in your room teaching your students with your materials. So, and even when they do professional development, they still don't have to congregate. They do that online. So I think that, you know, I mean, if we want our students to get the best out of this situation, teachers need to be in their classrooms. And then it's our responsibility to make sure that they have the PPE and social distancing abilities within that setting, but they need to be in the classroom.
I agree.
Oh, that's my comment. Anyone else have a comment on that issue?
Oh, Ms. Wright, I think I'll choose to argue with you at a different time.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
All right, Casey,
So.
that's the, okay. Coffee for arguments. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I declare the Governance Committee of the Whole meeting adjourned. I now turn the floor over to Treasurer Green for the Finance and Operations Committee of the Whole.
Good evening. I would like to call the Finance and Operations Committee of the Whole meeting. I will not call upon Zakowski to present the action items for the board.
Great. Good evening, board. Our first action item, I seek your approval to move action item 11.49, authorization for E-rate consultant appeal fee, to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved.
So moved. Seconded.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any hold on, this thing's acting crazy. Is there any discussion? Hold on, give me 1 second, guys. I gotta pull this up. Hold on.
We do, Treasurer Green, if I may say, we do have the consultant available. He's been on the meeting waiting. If the board, if any board members have any questions about this fee.
Is there any discussion, guys? No question, no discussion?
Wait a minute, let me look real quick in my notes
Oh, okay.
to see if I had a question.
Does everybody remember exactly what this is? Do we need
What
some clarification?
where are we at? I'm sorry, you guys. I'm lost now.
That's okay. 11.49. Does anybody need a recap on what this 11.49 is?
Sure, go ahead.
No? Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let the consultant, Kevin Vaughn, he is going to speak and just kind of take you through what happened and what this fee is connected with so that you all have a good understanding. So go ahead, Kevin, if you're there, please.
I am
Thank you.
definitely here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like to share my screen and put up a couple PDFs so we can walk through. Here we go, show my screen. Oh, come on, where are you? Is my screen currently shared? Do you see
Yep.
the doc? It
I
says
do.
Flint. Okay, great. So going back in 2016, March to be exact, the school district asked for some funds from the E-rate program, and this is the application that we submitted. I'm going to drop down to one thing so that you'll have a clear understanding of what the process was that caused so much trouble. So this first funding request number was for cabling. Basically, you have computers, you need cables. If you have Wi-Fi, you need cables. You always have to have some sort of cabling. So we went out and asked, I put it out to bid. It was won by a particular company, and this was the dollar amount that we asked for. Of that $213,000, Flint would be on the hook for only 15% of that per the E-rate rules and per the funding process. These are the schools that received the wiring, the cabling. And what we initially did, because in 2016 we had a brand new budget, so what we initially did is we took all of this 213,000 and spread out amongst all the buildings. Even though maybe Freeman had 200 and Northwestern had 500, we still made it even, Steven, so that everybody's budget would be sort of reduced at the same time, knowing that this was a big project they were doing and that the budget was fresh. So after I don't know how many rounds of trying to get it approved, we finally got it approved. They sent us a funding decision commitment letter saying, boom, you now have the money. Hold on a second. One more. Boom, you now have the money. You can go ahead and spend it. Well, by the time they approved it, it was in 2018 or almost 19. And the project and the work had already been done. You guys paid out of pocket. You said, all right, we'll just pay it out of pocket. We need to get it done. This had something to do with testing, online testing, and a requirement from your ISD there. So you'd already spent the money, and now the idea is, well, how do we get it back? Well, the way we do it is we ask for it back. We file a bear. But before that, we ended up with a bunch of more trouble, and here's what they did. In August of 18, they took it all away. They literally said, well, wait a minute, we're not happy, we're not satisfied. And this was after working with several of their people and over several months, trying to show them what the math was, using Excel spreadsheets, asking them to change the cost allocations. We talked about the $13,000 earlier. Change the cost allocations to match what they want. And we did all that numerous times. But eventually they had some personnel changes, and every time I'd get 3 or 4 people in, understand it, they would disappear. Then next thing you know, I had a new set of questions, which was really the same question over and over again. So at some point in time, like I said, they took away the money, and we said, all right, well, let's file an appeal. So when we filed that appeal, we knew that it was going to be an uphill battle, but we knew that we could also do it. So let me just do. So in October of 18, we filed an appeal trying to get the money back, and that took a long, well over a year before we finally got it back. And then by the time we finally got the funding back, and ideally we were going to get it and be able to get reimbursed for it, the district hit what's called a red light letter. It's not red light district, red light order. And that is, I know I sometimes.
Hello?
Did we lose him?
Kowski, did we lose him?
No, I'm sorry. All right. So dollars back because they felt like we got too. Probably right, but still we fought it. We said, let's see if we can win this one. Eventually lost it. Once we lost that appeal, it was decided to pay 32,000 back, which I think you approved maybe 4 board meetings ago, or at least 3. Once it was paid, we said, all right, fine, now give us back our portion of that 215,000. And they said, well, no, because you missed the deadline. And I said, well, wait a minute. Of course we missed the deadline. We were in appeal. What are we supposed to do? So now we're at a point where we still need to get that money back, and we will. I will have to file yet another appeal. But the long and the short of this is that it took multiple years for work that we did in 2016, and this is just to get everything completed. My commitment to Flint schools, I came from Pontiac schools, my commitment to Flint schools is this: if there's any other additional appeals, I will not charge you a penny. I'm willing to just take what I've offered or what I've asked for, and anything after this, and there could be 2 or 3 more things, I will do them, not necessarily pro bono, but you won't be charged. I mean,
We have that in writing? We have that in writing, right, sir?
you got it recorded now. But
Well,
yeah, no, I'd
won't
send
vote.
you something like that.
Okay.
And actually, in our contracts that I sent out, he puts in there the amount for the appeals, and he wrote in there 0 for
Yep.
appeals. Yep. So it is in the contracts that the board has approved that there would be no additional charges.
And
Okay,
that's for 2017 forward. 2016, they weren't included.
Okay.
That's
Does
the key
anyone have-
difference.
Thank you.
Is,
Question?
yes, Danielle,
Ma'am.
is this that ASI? Is this the, well, no.
E-rate,
Is
E-rate.
this the One Networks Consulting?
Yes, I am A1 Networks Consulting, yes.
Okay, Diana had asked for the contract, the original contract that the board approved for ASI. Do we have that?
She sent that to me the next day, so I received it. So it was all in order. No problem.
I believe I sent it to all of you, Miss Perry.
Okay, you may have.
Okay, good.
I was probably asleep. Let's see. I wanted someone to explain this to us at the cow. So okay, I'm satisfied. I had to find my notes.
Is there any more discussion? Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Thank you, and I appreciate you all as well. Thank you very much. How do I unshare my screen here?
Excuse me,
Sorry. Is that Ms. McIntosh?
it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ms. McIntosh?
He's gone already?
No, I'm here. We just stopped sharing my screen, that's all.
Okay, you said that it would cost us no money. You said that clearly somebody's gonna pay for it, not us, right? Is what you basically said?
My time, no, my time. I have to put time into it and resources. I have an office, I have staff, so there's time and resources that will go into it. But at this point, with all that we've done, I think it's going to be fairly minimal, probably less than 10 hours. But that also just depends on how they respond to our request, really. We make a request, they deny it, and then we appeal it. That's just the rules.
Well, you said an appeal wouldn't cost us anything extra. And
Any
that's
additional appeal. So anything beyond this, the 1149, anything beyond that, you would not be billed ever. Just what's in the 11.49.
Oh, okay.
That more or less covers a back period of time and makes it a little easier for me to afford to continue fighting on without additional fee.
Okay. So and so you said that it would be, but so nobody's paying for it. It's just gonna pro bono?
Yeah. Let's use that word. Yes. It'll be pro bono going forward after we receive 11.49.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No more questions.
Is there any more questions or discussion? See no further discussion. The motion is to move action item 11.49, authorization to E-rate consulting appeal fee to the regular board meeting for adoption. I will conduct the roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. President Lester,
Yes.
Vice President Wright,
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
Trustee Strozier, and myself, Danielle Green, yes. Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you. I seek your approval to move action item 11.50, authorization for sprinkler and fire alarm inspection to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Seconded.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the motion is action item 11.50, authorization for sprinkler and fire alarm inspection to the regular board meeting for adoption. I will conduct a roll call vote. As I say your name, please say yes or no to approve the motion. President Lester,
Yes.
Vice President Wright,
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
Trustee Strozier, and myself, Danielle Green, yes. Motion passes 6-0.
In the future, get as honest
Okay, and I seek your approval to move action item 11.51, authorization to extend snow removal services contract agreement to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second, I'm sorry.
Come on, y'all, don't make this longer than it's gotta be.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? If you have a comment or a question, please say something because I got my script up and I can't see everybody.
No, I have nothing.
Can you
Okay.
hear?
Nope, I couldn't. Miss McIntosh.
Okay, for this snow removal, with us being in the situation that we are in with this pandemic, will we still shovel all of our schools, sidewalks, and parking lots? Will we still continue to uphold the schedule we've been holding up, even though we won't have that many people in our buildings? I assume that some buildings will probably stay closed. I'm hoping we're not gonna just, well, I don't know. So will the schedule for snow removal change due to the COVID, or is it still the same process regardless?
It's still going to follow the same schedule that's in the contract. We do have our ancillary, some staff is coming into the buildings. We have CSM still cleaning. There are some staff coming in, so then we have to have it, make sure that it's clean and disinfected. So we will still continue to plow each of our buildings. And also that's just a safety thing. We want to make sure that they're clear and that there's, anyone is on our property that we have clear, and we're trying to remove the ice and so on and so forth. So yeah, we will continue on.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion? Any more questions? There no further discussion. The motion is to move action item 11.51, authorization to extend snow removal services contract agreement to the regular board meeting for adoption. I will conduct a roll call vote. As I say your name, please say yes or no to approve the motion. President Lester,
Yes.
Vice President Wright,
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh, did I miss you? I'm sorry.
No, ma'am. Yes.
Trustee Strozier, myself, Danielle Green, yes. Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you. I seek your approval to move action item 11.52, authorization for purchase of plumbing and vacuum supplies to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? No further discussion. The motion is to move action item 11.52, authorization to purchase of plumbing and vacuum supplies to the regular board meeting for adoption. I will conduct a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve the motion. President Lester,
Yes.
Vice President Wright,
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes,
Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
Trustee Strozier, and myself, Danielle Green. Motion passes 6-0.
Great, thank you. And our last one is I seek your approval to move action item 11.53, authorization for catch basin repair to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So move.
second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Do we have any discussion?
I'd like to say one thing. Before we go into the regular meeting, I just want to address the fact and thank Carrie Stolinsky there for the job she has done. Finding $2 million, usually we end up paying people $2 million, but finding the money and the job she has done for us, she's been an exceptional CFO. I truly appreciate her, and I think everybody else does, at least I hope they do. But I wish her well, and thank you. Thank you for being who you are and what you've done. I appreciate it. That's all.
Does anybody else have any comments?
No, I will say the exact same thing, Carrie. I really appreciate everything that you've done, the time you've spent, keeping our head afloat during all this craziness, and all the time, energy, effort you've put in, and we're in a stronger financial position because of you in more ways than just, you've randomly finding $2 million that was owed to us. Even outside of that, the structure and systems that you put in place have really helped strengthen who we are as a district. And so I know I told you this before, but if at any point somebody calls me and asks me about you, I will always have just glowing things to say.
Thank you, President Lester. Is there anybody else who has any discussion, comments, or questions? I was going to wait until the end of this this little subcommittee, but Carrie, I had an opportunity to work closely, and I appreciate you always being open to inform me, keep me up to speed, answer any of my questions. It is an absolute loss to the Flint Community Schools that you will no longer be with us. You always made everything so pleasant for me, and I hate that you are leaving, but I understand. So I want you to take care and do what's best for you and your family.
Thank you so much.
Is there any more discussion, comments, or questions? Seeing no further discussion, the motion is to move action item 11.53, authorization for catch basin repair to the regular board meeting for adoption. I will conduct a roll call vote. As I say your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. President Lester.
Aye.
Vice President Wright.
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdale.
Yes,
Trustee McIntosh.
Yes.
Trustee Perry.
Yes.
Trustee Strozier. And myself, Danielle Green. Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you so very much, Ms. Stokowski, again. Seeing no further action, I declare the Finance and Operations Committee of the whole meeting adjourned. I turn the floor over to President Lester for Board Committee of the whole portion of the meeting agenda.
or actually, it comes to me for academics.
Mrs.
Actually,
Wait, Ramsdale, hold on. We have the section that Mr. President Lester is supposed to address that was brought over from, thank you.
No wonder it wasn't there.
Oh, okay. So let me find that's the second script you sent me, right? The waiver resolution?
Yes.
Right? Okay. I seek your approval for action on 21.16, waiver of the bylaws of the Board of Education of the School District City of Flint. Do I need to read this whole thing, or did I already do that when we first started this
No,
meeting?
you already did that at the beginning, so we're gonna do 21.7, move it to the regular.
Okay. I seek your approval to move action on 21.17, authorization to execute proposed staffing services agreement with Flint Board of Education. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any, it has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, the vote will be conducted via roll call. Vice President Wright,
Yes.
Secretary Ramsdell,
Yes.
Treasurer Green,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
and President Me. The motion passes 6-0. And I now turn it over to Secretary Ramsdell.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the Academics Committee, the whole meeting to order. I'd like to call upon Mr. Jones to present the action items. Mr. Jones.
Yes, ma'am. I am going to defer these action items to Ms. Murphy. Ms. Murphy, are you on?
Yes, good evening, board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I seek your approval to move action item 25.21, authorization to purchase approved items from the Cesar Education Equity Grant to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved.
Second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, seeing no further discussion, the motion to move action item 25.21, authorization to purchase approved items from the Cesar Education Equity to the regular board meeting for adoption will be conducted by roll call. I'd like to ask President Lester. President Lester, yes?
Yes.
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 Vice President Wright,
Yes.
Treasurer Green?
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh? Trustee McIntosh? Okay.
Yes.
Trustee Perry?
Yes.
Trustee Strozier? And Trustee Perry?
I've already said yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I'd read it twice. Motion passes 2, 4, 6.
You didn't say yourself, did you?
Yes, I did, and myself, Mrs. Ramsdell. So passes 6-0. The motion passes 6-0. Onward.
I seek your approval to move action item 25.22, authorization to purchase approved items from the consolidated application to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved.
Second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I seek your approval, authorization to approve items from the consolidated application to the regular board meeting for adoption will be done by roll call. President Lester.
Yes.
Vice President Wright.
Yes.
Treasurer Green.
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh.
Yes.
Trustee Perry.
Yes.
Trustee Strozier absent. Myself, yes. Motion passes 6-0.
I seek your approval to move action item 25.23, authorization to purchase approved items from the Flint Declaration of Emergency Grants, Section 11S2, school social workers to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Authorization to purchase approved items from the Flint Declaration of Emergency Grants, Section 11S2, school social workers to the regular board meeting will be conducted by roll call. President Lester.
Yes.
Vice President Wright.
Yes.
Treasurer Green,
Yes.
Treasurer McIntosh,
Yes.
Treasurer Perry,
Yes.
Trustee, please.
Trustee Strozer. Myself, yes. Did you say something, Ms. Green?
Well, you just called everybody a treasurer, and I'm just saying.
Oh, did I call everybody a treasurer?
That's all right. No,
That's better than some things called, so take it.
no, that's okay.
All right, thank you, dear. Okay,
No problem.
Ms. Murphy,
I seek your approval to move action item 25.24, authorization to purchase approved items from the Coronavirus Relief Fund, CRF, to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing
Is
no
this
further,
where we're going to purchase? No.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss.
No, go ahead.
This is where we're going to purchase the protective equipment for staff and students, or what exactly is the coronavirus relief fund?
So this is these are federal dollars that came directly into the district on our state aid for those purposes for the district to respond to the coronavirus pandemic. So some of the things that we needed to purchase immediately was additional devices for students. Also, we have content filtering for our mobile devices so that we can protect students while they're online and learning from home. Included in this also is a contracted services for licenses for online learning for students, as well as stipends for building principals to build a team with themselves and some of their staff to make plans after school hours to prepare for scholars return. And so there's also some professional learning in this, as Ms. Stewart mentioned about us wanting to prepare teachers for returning to teaching from the classrooms. There's additional supplies and materials, video cameras, document cameras, so that the education that they're providing students can be more rigorous as they're conducting virtual learning. So these are some of the things that we needed right away to purchase in order to respond to the COVID in the district.
Thank you, Miss Murphy. That was very thorough. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Is there any other discussion? Okay. So seeing no further, the motion to move action item 25.24, authorization to purchase approved items from the Coronavirus Relief Fund to the regular board meeting. Adoption will be conducted by roll call vote. President Lester.
Yes.
Vice President Wright.
Yes.
Treasurer Green.
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh.
Yes.
Trustee Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Strozier is absent. Myself, Betty Ramsdell, yes. Motion passes 6-0.
I seek your approval to move action item 25.25, authorization to purchase approved items from the Touchdown in Your Town Detroit Lions grant to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved.
So moved. Seconded.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the motion, did I hear something?
Yep, it's me again. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. If you have a question, that's wonderful. Go for it.
Touchdown in Town Detroit Lions grant. What is that used for?
So our athletic director, Jamie Foster, along with the football coach, and also our community school director, Mr. Muhammad at Southwestern, applied for this grant through the Detroit Lions, where they would have the opportunity to receive helmets and pads, brand new from the Lions organization, as well as field equipment. So this gives them an opportunity to make renovations to the field, to the press box, to the lighting on the field, and also address the needs for the restrooms and the concession stands at Houston Stadium.
Oh, that's,
Okay, great. Okay, thank you again, Ms. Murphy.
do you have any idea of the amount?
Yes, so the field grant is $20,000, and the helmets, the equipment grant is $30,000, and so it's a total of $50,000 for the field and for equipment.
That's wonderful. Please, well, we all need to tell Mr. Foster, and who was the other writer?
Mr. Muhammad, for the community school director at Southwestern.
They do so much. So that's wonderful. Good for our kids. Good for our kids. That's great. Is there any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, authorization to purchase approved items from the Touchdown in Our Town Detroit Lions grant in the regular board for adoption will be conducted by a roll call vote. President Lester?
Yes.
President Wright?
Yes.
Treasurer Green? Treasurer Green?
Yes.
Treasurer Trustee McIntosh?
Yes.
Trustee Perry?
Yes.
Okay, Trustee Strozer is absent. Myself, Secretary Ramsdell, yes, motion passes 6-0.
I seek your approval to move action item 25.26, authorization to execute amended 2020-2021 service agreement with the Office of K-12 Outreach at Michigan State University for professional development services to the regular board meeting tonight for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Just a little more explanation on this one also, please.
Okay.
This is a no-cost contract extension. This was funded through the school improvement grant at Southwestern for coaching services through the Office of K-12 Outreach at Michigan State University. Due to the coronavirus pandemic and schools transitioning in March out of the building, teachers and students, they were not able to provide all of the professional development services outlined in the contract. So we just needed to do a contract amendment to extend the service into this school year so that we could receive all the hours of professional development. So there's no additional cost assigned to this extension. It's just an opportunity for the teachers to still receive the service.
Okay. Ms. Murphy, I appreciate it.
Okay, any other? I want to take a minute to say here, Ms. Murphy, you're awesome. You've got more grants coming and going than anybody I've ever known, and you do a wonderful job with it. And I just want you to know, we really thank you, appreciate it. Okay. Action item 25.26, authorization to execute amended 2020-21 service agreement grant with the Office of K-12 Outreach at Michigan State University for the professional development services to the regular board meeting for adoption will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, please answer yes or no. Mr. Lester, President Lester? The Irishman, where is he? I'll come back. Vice President Wright?
Yes.
Treasurer Green?
Yes.
Treasurer McIntosh?
Yes.
Treasurer Perry? Trustee Perry, I'm sorry, making all of you treasurers again.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion passes 5-0.
I'm here. I said yes. I don't know if you can hear me.
No, couldn't, but got it. Okay, 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Murphy and Mr. Jones. I'm going to ask before I close my section of the meeting. We read these twice. We read the action item. I'd like to look and we could ask Mr. Williams if it's read once. So if I read 20.21 and it's read once, can we just refer back to it by its number? Do we have to reread it? I think it would save us time, and I think it would be much more efficient if we did it that way. So I would like if someone could possibly check into that. I don't know if that would be Mr. Lester or Mrs. Wright, but I think according to Robert's Rules of Order, we only have to read the statement once for the purpose of it, and then it can be referred to by number. So I think we would find that would be a little more expedient for us all. So if we could do that, I would appreciate it.
Betty, as president, I will use an executive action and say that that is perfectly acceptable to refer to it as the number from there on. Whether that's the case or not, I'm just going to say yes, I think that's a great idea and begin doing that.
Yes, I think many of us have served on many different boards, and I think you find really you only have to state the item once, and then if you use the number to refer by it. So we'll have to discuss that. See no further action, I declare the Academics Committee of the Whole meeting adjourned. I will now turn the floor back to President Lester.
Seeing no further action, I declare the Board Committee of the Whole meeting adjourned. Our regular board meeting is scheduled to begin right now.
And can we do that in batches?
Yes, it's all set up to be done in batches.
Thank you.
I would like to call the Flint Board of Education regular board meeting to order at 8:07. Board members, as I call your name, please reply present for the public record. Vice President Wright. Secretary Ramsdell.
Yes.
Treasurer Green.
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh.
Yes.
Trustee Perry.
Yes.
Trustee Strozier. And I am here. That means Vice President Wright is absent and Trustee Strozier is absent. So I seek your approval for Resolution 21.16, waiver of bylaws of the Board of Education School District of the City of Flint. Can I get a motion in a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before we begin, I had made a statement back at the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month that I would like Vera to do a brief presentation for us. And Ms. Perry, if you would like, I'll turn the floor over to you so we can start that.
Okay, thank you. It is with great honor and pleasure that I chose to speak about Brother Cesar Estrada Chavez. The reason I call him brother is because he was a strong union man, and within the union, there are no big I's and little U's. We are brothers and sisters. So that's why for me, he is Brother Cesar Estrada Chavez. He was born March 31st, 1927, and died April 23rd, 1993. He was a labor leader, a civil rights activist, and was awarded posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1994. He began his working career as a manual laborer before he enlisted in the Navy, serving 2 years. After the Navy, he moved to California, where he married, and from that union, he was the father of 8 children. Brother Chavez involved himself in the CSO, which is the community service organization, where he worked tirelessly to register laborers to vote. He was involved in getting credit unions started, insurances, and the El Macriado newspaper for farm workers. He organized, participated, marched, and boycotted different labor issues. Brother Chavez was being monitored by the FBI because they thought he was a communist. His most famous union organizing campaign was the Delano Grape strike of 1965 through 1970. This particular strike was to support the Filipino American farm workers. But along with that, the Mexican American farm workers joined in, and they were supportive of that group. The UAW actually got involved under the leadership of brother, who was the president at the time, Walter Reuther, and the protest. He got involved in that protest and marched with Brother Chavez through Delano. Brother Reuther pledged the UAW would donate $5,000 a month to split between the AWOC, which was the Agriculture Workers Organizing Committee, and the NFWA, which is the National Farm Workers Association. Brother Chavez had a very strong relationship with Robert F. Kennedy, He traveled across California urging farm workers and registered Democrats to back Kennedy. It was the victory celebration in Los Angeles that was attended by Chavez that Robert Kennedy was assassinated on June 5th, 1968. Chavez attended the funeral as a pallbearer. And with Kennedy being assassinated 2 months after Dr. King, there was a fear that Brother Chavez would be targeted. There was so much information on this fabulous man. I could never report everything he did, but he fought and struggled so hard for not only the Mexican Americans, but for all the Spanish-speaking Americans in this country. I will leave you with this opening letter that he wrote to the a portion of it to the grape industry amid the grape strike. Quote, "The men and women who have suffered and endured much, and not only because of our abject poverty, but because we have been kept poor. The color of our skins, the languages of our culture and native origins, the lack of formal education, the exclusion from the democratic process, the numbers of our slain in recent wars, all these burdens, generation after generation, have sought to demoralize us, to break our human spirit. But God knows we are not beasts of burden. We are not agricultural implements or rented slaves. We are men. And mark this well, we are men locked in a death struggle against man's inhumanity to man in the industry you represent. And this struggle in itself gives meaning to our life and enables and ennobles our dying." So that's what I have. But I felt that that portion I read there, we're actually working with that now, living that now. And but there was so much. He was involved with so many unions and so many organizings, and he did a wonderful job. And his in some states, his birthday is a national holiday. It's just not that in Michigan, and I did not write that down, but there are states where his birthday is actually a national holiday. He is very revered within the Spanish-speaking community. Thank you.
Thank you, Vera. That was good. I really appreciated it.
Thanks.
That's awesome, Ms. Perry. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so before we proceed with our meeting, I'm seeking a motion and a second to amend the meeting agenda to enable the board to act on the Resolution 21.17, authorization to execute proposed staffing service agreement.
So moved.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we amend the meeting agenda. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, the motion to amend the meeting agenda to allow the board to act upon Resolution 21.17, authorization to execute proposed staffing services agreement, will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve. Secretary Ramsdell?
Yes.
Treasurer Green?
Yeah.
Trustee McIntosh?
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh? Trustee
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
And it's a yes for me. The motion passes 5-0. Before we begin tonight's meeting, please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
1, 2, 3, go.
I pledge
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
To
of the
the
United States of
United States
America
of America,
and
and
to the republic
to the
for which it
republic
stand
which stands
one
one
nation,
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
and
justice
liberty and
for
justice
all.
for all. Thank you for the countdown, Ms. McIntosh. I'll never get used to doing that virtually versus in person, as I have no idea how to do anything on beat. I appreciate you bailing me out there. I'd like to entertain a motion and a second to approve the meetings in batch from the September 8, 2020 Governance Subcommittee, September 14, 2020 Special Board Meeting, September 16, 2020 Board Committee of the Whole Meeting, September 16, 2020 Regular Board Meeting, and October 7, 2020 Finance and Operations Subcommittee Meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections?
Yeah.
Seeing none, the motion to approve the minutes in batch will be conducted by a roll call vote. Secretary Ramsdell,
Yes.
Treasurer Green,
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Perry.
Yes.
That's a yes from me. The motion passes 5-0. At this time, the board will hear any comments from the public regarding agenda items. Members of the public are reminded that the Board of Education by its bylaw 1370 are not obligated to answer questions, make statements, or commitments in response to issues raised by the public. In general, such issues will be referred to the superintendent for investigation, study, or recommendation. Any public members wishing to speak regarding agenda items must raise their hand in the chat section to alert Stephen that they want to speak. Stephen will state your name prior to unmuting your microphone. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Please restate your name and state your address for the public record before you begin speaking. Stephen?
Good evening again, board. I do have a couple of questions added during the cow. We have the first one from a Donna Milliken. I am a teacher at Nethercutt. All of my resources are available online. What isn't, I have brought home. I do not see a need to go into the building to do exactly what I can do at home. I cannot risk exposing myself to this virus since I live and care for my elderly mother. I do not want to be responsible for her health as well. I work many hours from home, sometimes until 11 p.m. at night. That's from Donna Milliken.
Thank you.
Next from Jacqueline Kildee Taylor. Her question is, what PPE is ready for staff to return safely this Monday? And looks like I do have one more from a Carmen Anna. They write, when are teachers going back to work in the buildings?
Superintendent Stewart, do you want to address any of the 3 questions that were brought forward?
No, Stephen, if you can defer those to Monica, will answer those.
Of course.
Thank you very much. The public is reminded that you may also send an email to FBOE@flintschools.org to have comments read at the next meeting. Now we will receive a communique from the Superintendent Stewart.
Good evening.
Good
As we
evening.
continue working to create synergy during difficult times, I wanted to provide an update on the Flint Community Schools District learning plans we are considering for the remainder of the school year. We shared these plans last week with governance, and Mr. Jones went over the plans again on today. At Flint Community Schools, the safety and well-being of our school community continues to be our primary concern, and we continue to rely on the recommendations of medical and public health professionals to make informed decisions. Since the 16th, we had 49 new positive cases. The positivity rate on September 20th was 2.1%, on October 1st, 4.3%, and the current positivity rate is 6.5%, which is a significant factor in our discussion surrounding our learning options moving forward. Per our medical team, some sources recommend the percentage positivity being less than 5%. The number of positive coronavirus cases changes daily, and we continue to monitor these numbers and the transition rate in the city of Flint closely. To that end, we are currently exploring 3 potential learning phases. Plan A, stay remote until further notice. Plan B, only certain grades will return to school in phases with the goal of allowing scholars who choose to learn face-to-face to do so. Plan C is for scholars of all grade levels to return to school in phases, and like Plan B, will allow scholars who choose to learn face-to-face to do so. Families who have chosen to stay online for the remainder of the 2021 school year will be able to remain online. In all scenarios, we will ensure a safe learning plan is in place designed to protect the health and well-being of our school community while maintaining a commitment to excellence in academics, transparent communications, and a whole child approach to education. Based on our current enrollment numbers, 82% of our scholars have received devices and learning packets from our district to date. The remaining 18% were not in need of devices. We will continue to support our families in tackling the barriers that may prevent them from getting connected. With the help of this Board of Education, we will continue to lean on the medical and public health community and make tough decisions together. And thank you for your support as we put the health and safety of our school community first. Now more than ever, we know it's time to be Flint focused. We know that schools are at the heart of the community, and it has never been more important to come together and support our neighbors. Leveraging our community school model, the Flint Community Schools District and community partners are Flint focused and working together throughout the pandemic to keep scholars engaged and connected even online. That's why we're launching a campaign called Flint Focus Working Together. We're using the power of social media and community partners to make sure families know the district has tools available to help them succeed. To that end, we plan to host a Facebook live stream on Thursday, October 29th at 1:30 p.m. It will be the first in a series of monthly events to connect with community partners and help families continue to get the information they need. As it relates to critical information for families, November is quickly approaching, which means Election Day will be here before we know it. Our district plans to launch an educational voting campaign next week to reinforce the importance of voting and the complex history of voting among our students and families. We will also issue a robocall and parent letter to encourage families to vote. By voting, we can ensure our families are represented and their voices are heard. While challenging times still lay ahead, I am confident our community will continue to persevere. We are deeply grateful to all those who continue to support the success of our scholars. Thank you.
Very nice. Nicely said. Nicely said.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart.
Thank you.
Board members, I would like to entertain a motion and second to approve the action items in batch that were moved to tonight's committee of the whole meeting. Human Resources Action Item 1.10 through 1.12. Finance and Operations Committee Action Items 11.49 through 11.53. Academics Committee Action Items 25.21 through 25.26.
So moved.
Second.
And that has been moved and properly seconded. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, the motion to approve Human Resources Action Items 1.10 through 1.12, Finance and Operations Action Items 11.49 through 11.53, Academics Committee Action Items 25.21 through 25.26, in batch will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve. Secretary Ramsdell.
Yes.
Treasurer Green.
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh.
Yes.
Trustee Perry.
Yes.
And it's a yes for myself. The motion passes 5-0. New business action items. I would like to call Carrie Sikowski for the Finance and Operations Committee.
Here I am. I apologize. We have the balance sheet, the budget versus actual, and the check register. If anyone has any questions.
If you don't mind, maybe it doesn't have anything to do with this part, but can you just give us a quick, can you tell us a quick $2 million story on how you did some pretty cool stuff and why it pays to consistently keep your nose to the grindstone?
Sure. So each year, obviously, we get a foundation allowance from the state of Michigan, and some of that we do receive from local revenue, from tax collections, from non-homesteaded properties in the city of Flint. And then the rest we received from the state of Michigan. And what I recognized here at this district, there were some delinquencies in the city of Flint, and we were not being made whole. So it just didn't seem right. You know, of course, I had a lot of things going on in the first beginning part of when I first got here, but just didn't seem right. So finally, I convened a meeting with Treasury and MDE, you know, the folks that do give us our foundation allowance, and Carla from the county of Genesee to find out why the state thinks they've made us whole, but the district had been shorted. I had very limited information. It looked like for the few years that I had, we were shorted a little over $1.5 million. And so I continue to just kind of press the issue, have the meetings, and kind of just ask the questions of, you know, you think we are getting the correct foundation allowance, but we're not receiving the tax revenues, and we're being shorted every year. Finally, Carla at the county, she was excellent to work with, and she was able to determine that there were some properties that were not being reported correctly in their system, which is how the state determines how much money to send us. And she was able to make all of those corrections in the early part of September. And we see the fruit of that on our state aid this month of a little over $1.9 million. And it goes back for several years. We've been shorted for a lot of years. And so I'm just really excited. I just knew something wasn't right, because we should always receive our foundation allowance regardless of who pays it, the state or the city. We still should get the right amount. And so I was pretty excited to see that on our state aid, and happy to share that with all of you.
Thank you. Can I, President Lester?
Yeah, go ahead.
A question for Mr. Kowski. So is that money going to any particular fund pot?
So it's just it's all general fund dollars, because we should have received it over the past year. So it's our student foundation allowance. It's the portion we got it from the state because we did not receive it in tax revenue. So it just goes into our general fund, and it'll be used for our general fund activities.
I want to say it always pays to follow your heart and stick to it and say something. Good job. I just can't tell you how I appreciate it so much, because, you know, any money we can get to the district is a win for us, especially $2 million.
Right.
So,
yep. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that, Ms. Sikowski. I appreciate that. Were there any questions on anything that she had presented?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Sikowski. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. I seek your approval for action on 21.17, authorization to execute proposed staffing services agreement.
So moved.
second.
Oh, I think that's supposed to be Ms. Stewart. Ms. Stewart, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm stealing your thunder over here.
I seek your approval to adopt action item 21.17, authorization to execute proposed staffing services agreement.
So moved.
So moved.
Second it.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, the motion to adopt action item 21.17 will be conducted via roll call vote. Secretary Ramsdell?
Yes.
Treasurer Green?
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh?
Yes.
Trustee Perry?
Yes.
And it's a yes for myself. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Superintendent Stewart.
Thank you.
Before we adjourn, I would like to give the public an additional opportunity to address the board. Any public members wishing to address the board must raise your hand in the chat section to alert Stephen that you want to speak. Reminder to the public, Stephen will state your name prior to unmuting your microphone. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Please restate your name and your address for the public record before speaking. Stephen?
I have no new comments at this time.
Okay. Any individual board members like to make a comment?
I would like to, if you don't mind, if I take 1 minute.
I do not mind at all.
Okay. The next time we meet, I will have passed a milestone. I will have a birthday coming up, and I will be 80 years old. And how I ever got to be 80, I don't know, but It's been something. And I figure at 80, I get to have a wish. And what I want to do is I want to wish to everybody on this board and this administration who have been on these meetings and everything else. I want to wish you the gift of having an 80th birthday. The things you'll see, the things you'll do, some will make you cry, but most will make you happy. So as a birthday wish, I wish all of you the gift of turning 80. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I
Right.
have a question.
Any other board members have any? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Perry.
It may be a little bit too premature, but I need to ask, what is the plan? Because normally around this time, we start, our seniors start ordering their cap and gowns. So what's the plan for them ordering cap and gowns this year? Because it's different from last year.
So Principal O and Principal Fields have been working with our seniors through what it is that they need to accomplish for this year as far as ordering of cap and gowns, as far as pictures. If you recall last year, towards the end of the school year, we had to do things differently as far as calling students up by appointments to be able to handle any of their senior business. And so they're still looking into doing those same things, making appointments with students to call them into the school to handle all of their business affairs for the senior school year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from individual board members? So just real fast, and I didn't think about this until earlier, but in regard to Hispanic Heritage Month, so my wife's grandfather, Rafael, came from Honduras. He received a master's degree in mechanical engineering in Honduras, and he, while he was in about his 30s, decided that he wanted to get out of Honduras because he thought that the country was going to see some bad times, and he wanted to get his family to safety. So he thought that he would, try to leave and make a better life for himself. He went to Mexico first to try to go into Mexico, and was met at the border, and they said that Mexico was for Mexicans and that he was not necessarily needed at that time. And he said, thank you very much, and moved on his way and left from Mexico and went to New York and got off his plane in New York. And that was the largest city, largest anything he'd ever seen. This was, it had been 1958, I think. And hopped on a bus, and the bus took him to Detroit. And he got off the bus and looked around and realized that that was still just as big as New York, and he wanted nothing to do with it. And he asked the bus driver, where does this bus end? And the bus driver said, Flint, Michigan. And he said, perfect, I live in Flint, Michigan now. And he hopped on that bus and came to Flint. He got a job as a daytime repair person for an HVAC company with no knowledge of the language, didn't speak any English or anything of the such. And he was sent to repair refrigerators. Again, this man has a master's degree in mechanical engineering, and he's sent to repair refrigerators. And one day he gets a call in, after he's kind of learned the language a little bit, gets a call in from his boss that they wanted to give him a raise and a promotion. And he asked, how come? And he said that the housewives that he had been helping at the house at the time called and just ranted and raved about what a wonderful listener he was and how great he was at everything he did. And he laughed and he said, it was easy to listen when you don't understand what anybody is saying at the time. And so with no ability to respond, he just sat there and smiled and fixed the refrigerators and went about his business. He quickly took a position with General Motors and then found out that they would pay for him to continue to further his education. He then got a second master's degree in electrical and continued to go to school while working his way up as a foreman at GM and doing everything of the such. He went to school so much that he ran out of classes to take. And when one of his bosses questioned why he was taking a piano class and having General Motors pay for it, what that had to do with anything, he thought very quickly and he said, acoustics. I am trying to learn how we can make the cars quieter on the road. and they said that's great and signed a check and handed it over to him. He brought the rest of his family shortly over, so he had 4 children, and at the time, again, none of them spoke English. They came over to Flint. They graduated. 2 of his children went on to get master's degrees as well. One of them retired from Flint Community Schools 2 years ago. Another one actually is a social worker right now for the ISD. Another one of his children is a teacher at Flushing, all of which maintained in families and obtained just an absolute version of the American dream from a man who at 30 years old decided to move his entire family from Honduras to America with no grasp of the language. And so when I think about Hispanic Heritage Month, I think about how phenomenal that story is and how important education was and what a role we play in kids' lives regardless. And also because of him, some of his friends came and opened up restaurants. One of them is La Azteca, and then another friend opened up La Familia. So because of my wife's grandfather coming over from Honduras, there are some phenomenal restaurants in our city as well, which I always tell them every time I go. So I wouldn't feel right if I didn't talk about Poppy on anything for Hispanic Heritage Month. So that being said, my long monologue is over. Our next board committee of the whole meeting will be held on Wednesday, November 11th at 6:30 p.m. It's a tentative November 11th, as that date might change, at 6:30 p.m. Everybody have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.